All right, everybody, welcome back to the Clack Shack. Tonight, I'm gonna work on a request that I have from a lady that she's wanting some cedar coasters, and they're really unique in what she wants. It's a real specific design that's kind of tailored to fit our area. Peaches are a big thing here where I live, and so we're gonna be making a peach coaster. We don't really know exactly what way we're gonna go with it just yet, but if you'll stick around, I'll show you the process to take this cedar board that's not good for much and turn it into some nice, cool coasters. So stick around. So I'm gonna get over here and run this guy through the planer a couple times, get it chopped up, run through the planer, and we'll be on our way. I'll probably end up fast forwarding through this to spare you all the noise and ruckus, but we're gonna get started. All right, that part went pretty well. Like I said, I've got a few square inches here that I'll be able to use to make my coasters that I have planned for this piece of material. Like I said, this is a little thicker than what the D1 is gonna want. All right, guys, I've moved over to my workstation here where the laser is, and the next phase of this thing, we're gonna try to see if we can burn this coaster and see how well the D1 10 watt does on this 10mm cedar. I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps of laying this out real quickly. I'm going to touch on a few terms that some of you may already know, but some of you may not. Like I said, I enjoy trying to help other people that maybe you aren't familiar with lightburn yet and you want to get it, but you're just not real sure. Maybe you're intimidated by it, but it's actually pretty easy once you get in there, and the best advice that I can give you is just get in there, get your feet wet, and start playing with it. So what we're gonna do on this coaster, I'm gonna try to make this thing, I want it to be a 4" by 4" coaster. And the lady wants a peach on there, and she wants the words "just peachy." So in my mind, I think that the best look would be for the peach to be burned into the top of this 4x4 piece of cedar, and I want it recessed down in there a little, and then I want the text kind of protruding out of that recess, so that the text kind of is in the natural wood color, and then my peach is burned really dark and kind of deep enough that you can tell it was burned and not just painted or stained on there. So we're going to walk through that real quick. I'm going to throw it together, and then we'll get into the burning. So I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can, so hang on. All right, the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need a 4x4 box, and I like to run with maybe like 109. That typically gets me pretty close. You're going to want to make sure that the lock, besides your shape, on the top left corner there's a box, a little lock. You're going to want to unlock that, set it to 109 by 109, which is going to be roughly 4 inches. That gives me my box. All right. I have done myself a little prep work here, in that peaches are such a common thing that people want around here where I live, that I've already got a peach graphic hid in my art gallery here. So I'm going to select my art gallery. I'm going to go over and find my peach and just drag and drop it onto this image. Now my peach is a little bigger than my box, but at this point I'm not really studying that because I've still got some steps to go. I'm going to move this stuff away from each other here real quick so that I can work a little better, because I've still got to add my text to this thing, and I want my text raised out. So there's a process that you got to go to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my text utility. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click inside my peach. Nowhere in particular, just inside my peach for now. And I'm going to type the word just peachy. Okay, that's going to be a pretty long word, my peach. I want the font big enough to see it, so what I'm going to wind up doing is I'm going to do 2 lines of text. So I'm going to, let me zoom in here a little bit. So I'm going to do 1 box of text here. Basically the top part of my text is going to say just, and then the bottom part, I want it to say peachy. The way lightburn works, when I drop down like that, it automatically has got it pretty well centered for me there. So I'm not really worried about that being exactly right. So I've got my text in there, and it says just peachy. I went with the Bauhaus 93, and don't hang me if I've jacked the pronunciation of that up, but that's the way it looks. So we're gonna go with Bauhaus 93. All right, I'm gonna move my text. I'm gonna make my text bigger because I want it to kind of fill my peach up a little bit here. The problem that I have, and many of you that have OCD may have as well, is my peach is not a perfect circle, nor is it a perfect square. It's got this big leaf hanging off the side over here. And that's kind of messing with my OCD a little bit. But what we're gonna do is I am just gonna make sure that I get my text centered in the round part of my peach best I can. And this is not a perfectly round object because it is a peach. So I'm going to get it as centered the best I can, and we're going to call that done. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select, using the arrow tool, just drag a big box across all of my text. All right, so all of that text is there. In order to, because right now if I set my peach and this to either a line or a fill, I'm going to have a graphic on top of graphic, and I don't want that for this application. What I want is I want the lettering just to be left alone. I don't want the letters messing with it. So the way that I accomplish that is selecting both of these 2 items, and then over to the left of your screen you're going to see a bunch of boxes. One of them is weld all selected shapes together. If you click that, that's going to change the whole dynamic of the way this works. So when I click that, I'm going to set that layer. While I've got it where it's setting, I'm going to set that to fill. I want it pretty deep. I want it dark. I know from my experience with my cedar, and this is cedar that I cut, for those that were wondering, you can watch the video on that. I'm going to go with a speed of 70 and a power of 100. Coincidentally, that's about what you would use on a tumbler too, but it works really good making dark burns on these guys. And so I'm just going to go in here, and just for the heck of it, we're going to pull this up and go in and look at what we got going on here. So it looks as though it is going to work the way that I want it to, but so we're going to move forward here. But my square right now is still set to be a fill, and I want it to cut this thing. So what we're going to do is, when I throw all this stuff together, you'll see what happens here. I'm going to select my square, and I'm going to select my cut level. I use the red one, 02, because the red pops out at me and I know it's a cut when I'm looking at it. I'm going to set my speed to 7, power to 100, and I'm going to do 7 passes. We'll see if that does it. That may not do it, but at least if it can get me close enough, we'll be good with that. So now I've got that set to a line, and it is set to the appropriate speed that I want to use to try to cut this thing. So if you look at the image here, and you got to turn off the invert, you'll see that my peach is going to be the way I want it, and my square is going to cut the way I want it as well. And so now the last step in this is I'm going to take both of these two right here. I'm going to select everything. Hang on, let me make sure I did this right on the peach here. All right, I've got my peach. I'm going to group, well, it's already grouped, so I'm good on that. And once I've got my peach and my text grouped where I want them, I'm going to select both the square and the peach. And I'm going to use a little bullseye button up top to center everything. The peach is actually inside the square. It's centered. It's a little to the left as far as the text goes. That's still messing with my OCD, but it is set the way it wants. So now all we've got to do is send this guy over to the laser and let this thing cut. And I'm going to move the camera over so that you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll get back started here. So stick around for just a minute.
All right, I'm going to be cutting on the table, so here we go.
All right, guys, moment of truth. The burn went the way I wanted it. Everything looks good. Let's just see if this guy went all the way through or not. Check it out, guys. Now, that is not entirely all the way through there, but you can see that it did cut through. And from my experience, we may be able to pop this guy out with just a little bit of scratching from my little utility knife. So we're going to move over to the table and see what happens. All right, we're over at my trusty little table here. And the next step, I'm going to do this just to make sure this thing comes out clean, if it will come out. And I'm just going to run my knife tip through those cracks and try to make sure that if there's any little fiber still holding, that they come loose. So we're going to just kind of run that through there. That one's pretty clean. Not a whole lot of little fibers holding. So let's see about the other side here. That one, not bad at all. Near this center part here, where that harder wood is in the center, it looks like it's got a little bit of a stick going there. So I'm not sure this is going to pop out entirely the way I want it to, but we'll see. It should come on out anyway. There we go. So there's your answer, guys. Can a D1 cut all the way through this? Well, I guess that's going to be a maybe. All right, guys, so as far as the question about can a D1 cut 10mm cedar goes, I'm going to call that a yeah, but it had a little trouble. So I'm going to get my pocket knife here, and all we really have to do is kind of scrape that little guy right there. He was barely hanging on, and it came off clean. I got one little burr or two there. I mean, so it is definitely doable. Keep in mind the part where it didn't want to cut all the way through, that was over near the center of the wood, and there's that little piece in the middle there where those knots were, so that probably contributed to that. But just to show that we're not cheating anybody here, I'm getting my little caliber here out, and this is not exactly the most expensive caliber you can buy. This is my Walmart caliber, but it works. And as you can see, we're right there, 10.2. I mean, 10.1 if you squeeze it. So can an XTool D1 10-watt cut 10mm cedar? I'm gonna call that a yes. We're gonna go with success on this one. So stick around and check out the channel if you want. I've got some other videos. If anybody has a question, feel free to shoot me a message. You can message me on my Facebook page, or you can message me on YouTube, and I'll try to answer it if I can. But keep in mind, a lot of times, instead of answering the same questions over and over again, I prefer to just make a video, put it out there, and if you want to watch it, you can. So if you're new to the XTool D1, you may want to check out some of the other videos. I've got a couple up for the D1. I do also do sawmilling. I've got a lot of videos about where this wood comes from and how I make the wood on my sawmill. So it's kind of a mix of what you're going to find from day to day. But today, it was one of those afternoons getting in from work, and decided to come out here and do some of this. So I'm going to hit this with a sander right quick and get this little bit of burn off of it. And I'm going to call that a project completed. So thank you. And like I said, smash the subscribe button down there, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a good day.